It's that time again when we talk nothing but football. All the football lovers gather around. It's that time again when we dive into the world of football. I know, detox from politics, detox from all these conversations, and let's, of course, just unwind. Let your friends know that we are up and running yet again. The VAR Zambia crew or team, of course, comprising of myself, John Mark Lukonde, and also Chips. I call him Chips because, hey, Zina Kati Chipwatanga. Who's going to remember that? I know he's going to kill me for saying that. But Chips and, of course, Teresa as well. We've got so much to talk about on this particular edition. We are talking nothing but football. And our topic for this week is straightforward but very, very powerful. None other than, of course, the standard of Zambian referee, the standards of Zambian refereeing. And we want to dive into also how it is, especially on the pitch, not just those who are playing the game, but even those who are officiating, because sometimes they come under a lot of scrutiny. So we want to dive into the fact that there are so many scandals that have risen. And to do this and much, much more is an introduction to the topic with, of course, Aziph Banda. Of course, the former referees manager, of course, Aziph Banda, will be joining us on set, myself and Chipwatanga, to dive into all of the allegations, all of the rumors to do with even refereeing and issues to do with match fixing. Trust me, this one you don't want to miss it. We'll be diving into this very, very shortly, so stick around. But even before we can even dive into that, allow me to also acknowledge, of course, Bet Lion. Of course, we know that VAR Zambia is powered, yes, powered by of course, Bet Lion. So make sure that you engage with Bet Lion. Drop your comments in the comment section, and we'll be able to continue the conversation and hopefully even respond or react to your comments as well. We'll take a brief break, and we'll take it up on the other side. And we continue with today's special edition. You're still with me, Chips, and of course, John Mark Lukonde. And of course, we're diving into something very, very interesting today with our topic, of course, the state of refereeing in Zambian football. We have with us former referees manager, none other than Aziph Banda. Aziph, it's a pleasure to have you on today's edition.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate for inviting me, and thank you very much, Chips. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And for the sake of those Chips who might not necessarily know Aziph, I know they see you in the public space. They know that you've been in charge of even referees as well in the country. Before we can even dive into that, very, very briefly, tell us about who Aziph is off the camera.
Thank you very much. So Aziph Banda is Zambian. From Eastern Province, as you can tell from the name. Yeah. Where the wise come from.
Yeah, the reason they come from there, they don't stay.
Okay, so I come from Eastern Province, Katete to be specific.
Okay.
Yeah. So in my growing up, I think I developed interest in refereeing. Yeah, this came after being a player. I used to play football, but not at that high level. But after
what number?
11.
Number
I'm
11.
a left footer.
Yeah.
I used to put in those free kicks like Alushabwari.
That's a good one.
Yeah, sure. So I played, and then I went into developed interest in refereeing, and then I went into refereeing. I did refereeing actually to the highest level. And when you talk about the highest level, we're talking about the FIFA accredited referee, where you'd go out into other countries actually to officiate football games. And I really enjoyed that. Okay, yeah. Good. So in a nutshell, this is Aziph Banda, and of course I'm a family person, married, and with children. So this is Aziph, and here I am now, a former referees manager.
All right, and you've given us a background of where you're coming from. Now let's talk about the aspect of refereeing as a whole. We've had a lot of stories come through, a lot of scandals, issues of sometimes even poor officiating by referees. I want to get your perspective on this, not just in terms of the MTN Super League, but even in the lower divisions. We can show clips of referees being pursued. We can show clips of referees bleeding because of being attacked by even some of the players based on even just the performance as well. So care to shed more light in terms of the quality of refereeing even at present, even from where you're coming from?
Okay, so I think I would say that refereeing it's something that is very sensitive and something that we need to pay attention to. Yeah, just like we pay attention to national team, players. Sometimes going into camp, you call them in advance. They do practice matches here and there. You attach that importance to the team, and it's no difference with the refereeing. I think refereeing should not be a thing that it should come as an afterthought. It's a department that people need to pay attention and make sure that the referees are trained. Okay, and this is one thing that I have to mention here. One thing that has to go out clear to say there should be some investment that should go into the refereeing department for you to see these people performing well. They need to at least sit in a class. They need to be taught, and they need to go through the laws of the game. Okay, so that at least they know what to apply at what time. So it goes with practice, as I've said. So it's very important that we attach, investment into refereeing in terms of them learning. There should be structured, programs to teach these referees so that the output can be appreciated by everyone.
Let's talk about also the aspect of violence in Zambian football, because we've had even referees themselves attacked, like I've even mentioned.
Yeah.
Care to shed more light in terms of what you feel FAZ could be able to do to be able to stiffen up the laws so that the referees are protected?
Yeah, violence is one thing that we should not condone in football, okay? And it goes actually both on the laws of the game and also the laws of the land, okay? Why I'm referring to the laws of the land, I think recently we had the FAZ President, Mr. Keith Mweemba, on one of the clips, I think he was addressing referees where he referred to those that are going to bring hooliganism or continue to be attacking referees, that they'll go to jail. That is the law of the land, because that is a criminal, offense. Okay, it's not good for people to go and assault, a person who is trying to give a service. And to say that, I think there should be some controls in terms of emotions, because, John, football is an emotional game. Yeah, but let's not take the law in our hands.
Or like the first president says, it's a spirit game.
It's a spirit game, yeah. No, the spirit game, I think what he was referring to is that, when the spirit is one, you find that even...
It's not violence he was referring to.
No, not violence. On the winning side. On the winning side. Whereby there's a game and then the mood in the country, everybody just talking about winning and winning, you're in one spirit. I think that's what he was referring to, and we need that in football.
What are some of the challenges, facing referees in this country? Because from a layman's perspective, it looks like the standards are really, really falling over the last couple of years. I mean, since Gianni Sikazwe, hit those heights, it doesn't seem like we have referees of the same caliber reaching those heights. What is the major, issue, or what are the major challenges, facing refereeing in this country?
Thanks for that important question, Chips. It's true that we can do better in terms of, the performance of refereeing. But I'll tell you to say, I mentioned earlier to say there should be an investment that should go into this department. Yeah, in terms of training. Yeah. You see, I'll talk too much about training, because the person that you have not trained, the person that you have not taught, you do not expect them to perform to the max, okay? You need to take this person through what they're supposed to do, so that at least when they do something different, you can hold them accountable, okay? So my plea actually is to the Football Association of Zambia that they need to take keen interest in the refereeing department to ensure that they put up programs, okay? We can have 2, 3, 4 programs in a year in terms of putting these people under one roof with a tutor, an instructor, to teach them so that they refresh themselves. It's very, very important.
I'm getting the sense that, the current, the current state in terms of how referees are trained and, these refresher courses is not adequate enough. Would I be right by saying that?
Absolutely, you are very right.
Okay.
Why I'm saying so is because we only train a few people out of a lot.
Off the top of your head, how many trained referees, would you say we have within Zambia at the moment?
I will not even go very far. We had a training a week ago, if not 2, where the president went to open the referees course. Yeah. Believe you me, we had 35 referees. Okay, 35 drawn across the country.
Only 35.
Only 35.
Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? Is because that was a FIFA accredited course, and FIFA has got a limit in terms of numbers on what they are going to train. Okay, so the numbers will come from FIFA to say, give us at least 35 people, the cream from your country, that we train them. So now it is incumbent upon the association themselves to tap into drop programs, tap into what FIFA is doing, and bring it down now to provincial and even district levels, where you get instructors around. We have former referees. Chips, you agree with me? You agree with me, John? We have former FIFA referees that are just sitting and not doing anything. One of them is very active. I'm happy about him. Jani Skazwe is doing a lot. Okay, is all over out of the country to teach other countries in terms of VAR and the like. Why can't we use our own?
But with all this information, you were once even at the helm. Why didn't you at least suggest them?
Suggestions were going, but look, we can go up to the end of suggesting. But if people come back to you to say, we don't have resources, what can you do? But suggestions are there. And even up to now, we are able to suggest to say, can people pay attention to the refereeing department? If you want us to produce another Jani Sikazwe, we need to talk about training of the referees in the districts. Let's not just look at the top. We're talking about training, which was which happened a few weeks ago. Only 35 invited from across the country, and the country is big. And we're talking about the cream. What about the lower division? Because in the lower division, this is where we have a lot of referees, and in the lower division, this is a lot of games are being played. So we need to take keen interest and also equip in terms of knowledge with the referees in the lower.
You mentioned something quite important. It actually, borders on my next question, because the lower division, I think there's been a lot of challenges. One of them has been the fact that, some referees from the lower divisions have come up to me and said that we haven't gotten paid in maybe 1 or 2 seasons. How difficult is it to find funding, to support, the work that referees, ultimately do week in, week out, to ensure that matches are played within, the laws of the game?
That is one area that I can advise, being the former referees manager. I sat in that office and I know the challenges that the referees are going through. And like I said in my preamble, in my introduction, that I've been a referee, so I know what a referee needs to get in terms of if he wants to perform. So if the numeration is not good, if you're not paying these people well, forget it.
For the sake of the layman out there, let's hit the nail on its head. What is the range of the remuneration for the referees at present? At least give us a range, and then also
both at the elite level and, of course, at the lowest level.
We want to find out, because at the end of the day, we can talk about the poor performances, but you cannot run away from the fact that remuneration is key. The take home is what is also going to be able to at least determine if at all this particular individual is also going to be involved in the match fixing.
That is very true, and in answering this question, I just want to be, very, very careful, because I'm former referees manager, and I'll talk about refereeing issues and not border on administrative issues. Because certain issues, I think they need to be answered by the spokesperson for the FA. So I'll tell you that the monies that the referees get, not to go into details, is not pleasing at all. It's not something that you can actually.
Maybe let's begin by this. I alluded to the fact that for the last 2 seasons, referees in lower divisions have actually come up to me and told me that they haven't been paid. As a former referees manager, putting you on the spot, can you confirm or deny whether referees at the lowest level, provincial level, district level, have been paid during the course of the last season and a half, or maybe 2 seasons?
Chips, we need to be real when discussing some of these issues, and that's when I think people are going to appreciate if they see these referees going through what they are going through. So to answer your question, I can confirm that yes, payments have not been coming as they're supposed to come. So referees payments, just to break it down, are in 2 parts, right? There's what we call traveling allowance and also the officiating allowance. So the officiating allowance is actually paid by the FA. The Football Association pays the officiating allowance, and the traveling allowance is the one that the team pays. So when a referee is going to a game, so the home team is the one that pays the traveling allowance, the transport allowance, so to say. And somebody asked about the range. Just to give a range, it's in between 80 kwacha and 160 kwacha.
Is it the traveling?
That is the traveling only. Okay, that is the traveling.
And the actual officiating.
And the actual officiating actually changes, or rather differs between the leagues which one is officiating in. Okay, so if you're officiating in the lower league, there's a low amount, but if you're officiating in the upper league, there's a big amount that is going
I
to
assume
go
that's the same with obviously the transport, allowance, because I'm looking at a situation whereby a referee comes from Lusaka and is officiating the Kitwe Derby. Surely 80 kwacha is not enough. So does that vary also in terms of the levels, in terms of
Thank you very much. Very good for that question. We needed to put credit to that question. So the transport allowance actually differs depending on the distance where a referee comes from. So the between 80 and 160 I gave about is a local referee. Okay. So you appoint a Lusaka referee to go and officiate a game, say at Sunset, is going to be in the range of that. But that referee traveling to the Copper Belt, you will follow the kilometers.
It's good that you've clarified on that. How much is it?
Imagine, John, guys.
No, on that one, I think it depends on the.
But
the
another
kilometers.
clarification.
Yes.
You said that this transport allowance is paid to the referee by the home team, the hosting team.
Yes.
In a way, doesn't that allow for match fixing? Because in an event that, Isaac United Football Club is playing against John Wanderers FC, and Isaac United Football Club is the one hosting, and I decide, well, since I've got a little bit more, let me just give a transport allowance. Instead of 80, let me give 250. In a way, doesn't that breed grounds for match fixing? Because now the referee at the back of his mind, person normally 80, but even Isaac United home game, and 250. Doesn't that kind of breed ground for referees to favor the hosting team?
It is a bleeding ground, I can confirm that. But one thing that we teach these referees, like in any other institution, is that they should be upholding high levels of integrity, right? Integrity is very, very important in this game. Okay, you know that you are supposed to get a certain amount, and even by mistake they pay you more, you are supposed to inform them to say this is not the amount I'm supposed to get. But you know how where money is concerned, you and me would say no. And especially that they don't even get their officiating allowance there, and then they would wait until the season ends for the FA to pay them. So those that have that kind of a mind, they'll just say, look, this is a bonus, this is Christmas, actually it has come early, so they can go for it. So to follow your question, Chips, to answer your question, Chips, it is a bleeding ground, but this is what happens actually even at CAF level, even at FIFA level. I'll tell you this. Like I told you that I've officiated games even outside the country. Off my head, I think one game I remember very well where we went to officiate with the Wellington Kaumas of these days at that time was Sudan. They were playing, Democratic Republic of Congo in one of the qualifiers games for the Africa Cup. And Sudan were in charge of paying us, the monies. And this is how it is. This is how the setup is. Referees should just hold integrity to know how much they're supposed to get and appreciate what they have been given.
The other day I was talking to Mwikisa, technical referee, of course, for the under-17s, and he talked about a number of technologies that we don't have in this particular country that must be brought into the picture for us to be able to develop. And maybe that's the reason why we don't make it in terms of the World Cups. We at least get out of the group stages, and even for the men's, maybe that's one of the reasons we don't actually get to even the World Cup itself. But I want to get your perspective in terms of other technologies that other countries have. Do you feel that maybe even with the referees, there is need to adopt that? I know that recently we had VAR also come on board in terms of the Absa Cup final, the one that Musa did play some years ago, and now it's becoming inculcated into the MTN Super League briefly here and there. So what other technologies that, if you feel, could actually be able to bring the Zambian football up to standard?
Very good question, John, and I appreciate for that question, because we are talking about refereeing development here. And if you talk about refereeing development, you cannot develop without embracing technology. If we do away with technology, we'll always be crying and we'll be singing the same song about Johnny 10 years. We'll never have somebody come in because we haven't embraced technology.
True.
So to answer your question, yes, we need to embrace technology, and that's why our other countries are doing better, is because they are far much ahead of us in terms of embracing technology. What technology are we talking about? Specifically in refereeing. Refereeing now, I've got communication gadgets. You see, that's why it looks so easy for some of these countries when they are officiating a game compared to us in Zambia.
And by the way, now that you've even mentioned that, remember,
Yes.
Chips, the FIFA Club World Cup, actually the referees have got a camera right on their chest
Yes.
to be able to give you a different perspective.
Correct. And this is where we're heading to. This is where the world is going to. So we need to appreciate that and take the same route. I was talking about communication. If you have a communication gadget, you know, you're an assistant referee, you know, in your language you call them linesmen, but we passed, you know, that's it's not a linesman, you know. Linesman, it was before the laws were amended, because when we say lineman, it's just strictly marking the lines. But why we say an assistant referee is because he can make decisions that are inside the field of play to help the referee for an incident that he hasn't seen. That's an assistant referee. So we find that assistant referees have got gadgets that you're going to communicate to a referee, talking to him, right? Yeah, before it used to be maybe a flag, it's an offside. The referee has to check, you raise a flag, then you see, oh, there's an offside there. But now you can communicate even by word of mouth. Before you raise the flag, you can tell your referee, there's an offside here, I'm raising my flag. And before you know it, the flag is already up. You get the point? So if we are not embracing technology, if you're not bringing these gadgets closer to our referees, then we should forget about them improving. And this is one area that, and I'm happy again, because I was following the president, Mr. Keith Mweemba, when he was opening the referees course. He mentioned again about this equipment that we're going to bring them to the referees. My appeal to the president is that we were supposed to bring these things even as yesterday. So you bring those things, you help the referees, well and good. It will help them to reduce in terms of complaints. It will help them to make informed and correct decisions when they're officiating the game.
You correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But there's something that has struck me as you were talking.
Yes.
The WAFCON is beginning in the first week of July. We have two, representatives as assistant referees in Diana and Nancy, who are going to the WAFCON.
Yes.
The men's side of refereeing is not doing too well since Gianni Sikazwe hung up his whistle. What could be the reason of this? Because it seems like the women's side is doing pretty well, but the men's side is not doing too well. What could be the reason? Yeah,
very, very good observation that you've made, and it's true. I think the men's have not been doing well, and for us to improve on this, score, is that we need to improve in terms of capacity building. Okay, capacity building is very, very important, and it's like when Gianni left, we didn't have a proper program in terms of when Gianni goes, who is going to come in. Okay, so capacity building is very important, and that's why we're talking about provincial referees. They're also very important, because if we start nurturing them from the province, even at the age of 17, you will know to say in the next 5 years, this one should be a FIFA referee. This one should be at least competing at the international level. So capacity building is very important. And in terms of capacity building, we need to also put structured programs in terms of training of referees. Very important. Let's not just depend on these courses that happen once in a year. Because FIFA, it's mandatory for FIFA. Every year they are supposed to conduct a course in all the member association countries. But we shouldn't depend on that. The one that happened 2-3 weeks ago, then we go to sleep to say referees were trained. It's just a fraction of referees that were trained. So we need to go down, capacity building, have courses in all provinces, so that we can have people that are going to take up the mantle from these that are there now.
And even before we can even also wrap up, I just wanted to get your take in terms of what role would you even be able to even advise those who are even at the helm right now to be able to play that maybe you maybe left halfway done? Because I think in not just in football, but even in Zambia generally, we are not very good at picking up from where the predecessor also did leave from. So you've talked about even Keith Mweemba himself. You've talked about how he needs that particular equipment even brought in even immediately as well. But even from the referee's perspective as well, what is your message to those even at the helm in order for them to pick up and at least enhance the refereeing profession?
The biggest mistake that we make most of the time when we are appointed to these positions is to want to do something different that maybe your predecessor was doing. I think that is not a correct way of doing things. Of course, your predecessor could have flaws. They could have maybe not doing well in 1 or 2 areas. But what is important is to identify the areas that he was doing well, then you keep up with that. They say you cannot fix what is not broken.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those that the predecessor was doing well, you continue with them. And where you think they were making mistakes, you correct. But the problem is when we are appointed to this position, people just look at myself and I. You just want to change completely even something that was working well. You find that you go back to start from zero, which is not good.
There's now Stanley Hachiwa, the man who's been given the mantle as referees manager. The right man for the job, in your opinion?
Congratulations to him. For me, I think he deserves it.
Okay.
Okay. Why I'm saying he deserves is that I've worked with him. Okay. He's one person that in my realm, the 4 years that I've been in that office, I've worked closely with him. I was taking the courses that I'm talking about every time I was taking him so that he can learn and also know what is supposed to be done in that office. So he's been given the mantle now, and what he's supposed to do, like I've said, is just to pick up from where his predecessor left from and continue to do the good things. And together, even myself, I shouldn't take it that I'm not in that office, then I stop contributing. This is one thing again that kills.
So how are you contributing, even as we contribute?
Very good question. I like that. I like that, and you put me on the spot. How I'm contributing? Just as far as yesterday, I was with the current referees manager.
Just yesterday?
Just yesterday. Wow. I was with the current referees manager who called me to say, look, I want us to sit. I want you to help me in one or two things. And that's the way to go. So I'll be contributing in him to tell him this worked well, this I learned, there were mistakes that I made, so he can correct it and do like this. So if that advice can come from me, what about all the former referees managers that have been there? Okay, if he can open up to them and then have that ear to listen to them, I think we can bring refereeing to another level.
Hachiwa's predecessor.
In
this regard, you're talking about Derek Kafuli. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Derek Kafuli. I want to understand, does FAZ operate in a vacuum? And why I ask this question is Derek Kafuli served in an acting position for over a year. The labor laws in this country clearly state that 6 months, you need to be given the job either on a full-time basis or at least a contract and so on and so forth. Derek Kafuli was in charge in an acting position, acting manager of the Football Association of Zambia since, I think, late 2023 until 2024, early 20.
Yeah, you're right, early 2024.
Yeah. My question is there a different set of labor laws that govern the Football Association of Zambia in terms of employment?
No, there's no different labor laws.
So was it wrong, in short? Let me ask that.
Derek Kafuli was appointed to that position in an acting capacity, and everybody was waiting that in the near future it could be confirmed. Yeah, but that is administrative. I think we cannot go into details. But he went up to about 1 year without being confirmed. If you talk about labor laws, we all sit under one labor laws. And as a nation, we've got only one labor laws. So maybe it's just something that was not done correctly. Yeah, but it suffices to mention that even in his acting capacity, then we are waiting for these elections to come. So maybe people planned and waited to see, okay, let's see how these elections are going to come so that maybe we can confirm him or maybe appoint another.
You were let go as a referees manager. Did you get a letter of dismissal? What was in that letter? What did they cite? Because I'm hearing a lot of rumors about why you were let go as referees manager.
I think this is a very, very important question, and I think let me bring this to clarity because even up to now, people sometimes have got a wrong perception about myself. Okay, my suspension I think was public. It was in the public domain. Everybody knew about it. Okay, it was an item on ZNBC News.
I know.
No shade to our brothers. No shades to you out there. We're just putting it out there. By the way.
No, it was an item on ZNBC News, and why I'm saying this is it was public. I mean, people saw that there was that, but the way I was brought back, there was an investigation against those allegations of match fixing, which I didn't know about it, and I'm happy to announce here that those investigations were concluded. I was written to, by the FA to say you can come back for work, you are clean, in short. But the only thing that I'm not happy with, I mean, I'm a human being. Everybody can get affected.
True.
It was pronounced that this person was suspended. I thought the same media, the same platform they used to suspend me, I think somebody could have taken responsibility to go back and say this person is clean and he has come back. But I was brought back privately. Where even now when I meet people, I say, you are still around, you're watching football. Because they are not told that this person...
They think you're still suspended.
They think I'm still on suspension. You see the importance of them going out to clear my name. And that thing I think dented my name. but honestly speaking, I think it was not a good thing. Yeah, I think some things can be, you know, handled administratively. Yeah, some things can be handled administratively, and especially where you haven't found somebody guilty, you go in public and announce. I think my character was, you know,
even as you give your concluding remarks, maybe let's give you an opportunity to even send that particular message to even the current administration as well, at least the way they should be able to do things compared to the previous as well, because now Keith is trying by all means to put everything together. Even as you give your concluding remarks, any other aspect that you want to clarify to the VAR Zambia audience and even just the audience at large, your last remarks?
Yeah, my last remarks, I think I would urge the incoming, you know, executive that they saw what the previous executive, you know, did. And like I said in my remarks, to say you don't fix what is not broken. So whatever they did well, I think they need to pick it up from there. And then where they see that they made mistakes, they can correct them. Okay. And in terms of human resource, and so this is something that is very, very important and necessary. You know, it's just that some of us, you know, we went into this to get advice here and there, and that's why we didn't want to go, you know, courtway and things like that. Otherwise, we said, okay, this is a sport, it has happened like this, it's all right. But I think it was wrongly done. When you are handling human resource, it's very important that you pay particular attention so that you don't damage. Look at me, I'm a young man, huh? And believe you me, I'm aspiring. I'm aspiring. Who knows? I may be aspiring to be in CAF. I may be aspiring to be in FIFA. But you see, when now they start looking at the records, they say, no, this person was at one time suspended because of ABCD. It's not good. It's dented the name.
Young man, Aziph.
Yes.
Just overall, as you summarize, what were some of the achievements that you scored as referees manager, and some of the biggest challenges that you faced, you know, in office as referees manager? And also, I know it's three-pronged kind of a question. New man at the helm in terms of, you know, referees at the country. What advice would you give to him in terms of the challenges and the issues that he expects to, you know, tackle in his entry as, you know, he assumes that role as, you know, referees manager?
Thank you very much. In my serving in that office, I think I had achievements that I can clearly point at. And one of them is we're talking about referees, you know, allowances. Yeah, in my tenure of office, I'm happy actually to come here and announce that I actually pleaded and we scored in terms of upgrading allowances for referees. Okay, they were getting lower allowances, but we went back to the teams, and I'm talking about the Zambian Premier League. Okay, there's supposed to be a gap between the Zambian Premier League and the lower division. Lower division, then we pleaded, yes, that they increased their allowances, but they couldn't because they had a genuine reason that the league is not sponsored. Yeah, but with the Zambian Premier League sponsored by MTN, they had no reason to give. They had to up their, you know, allowances. There was an increment of at least 100%. Okay, which I think it was, thank you for clapping for me, 100% on the transport allowance. So if transport allowance one was getting 80, it was increased to 160. If one was getting 200, remember I talked about distances? Yes. It was 200 was increased to 400. Okay, 600 was increased to 1,000.
Clarify which distance, with locally or
the longest distances. Okay, so starting from local, like I said earlier, it was 60. So it went to 160. Okay, so depending on the distance, if 200 kwacha paid maybe to go to Kabwe, it was 400, doubled. Okay, so that was a very big achievement, and the referees can attest there, and they are proud about it. But I think we can even do more in terms of giving these referees what they deserve. Even if there was that increment, for me, it wasn't enough. Okay, if you want us to kill match fixing, what we're talking about here, give the referees enough, then we're not going to have all these problems here and there. The other achievement is that you'll see these referees dressed in a copper jersey. Yes, okay, yes. We had to do a lot in terms of pushing that these referees are dressed. Okay, so that happened in my tenure, and I should be proud of it. Referees were complaining to say we don't have a uniform. How can this one be putting on yellow, this one maroon, and this one black? You're shedding one game. It wasn't looking good, but we pleaded with the previous exco. Thank God they listened, and referees were given kit, and they were all looking good. Okay, so those are some of the achievements that at least I can talk about that we scored. Another one is that in the Zambian Premier League, we used to have what we call match commissioner. Match commissioner is the one that oversees the performance of the referee. But we introduced, in top of the match commissioner, we introduced what we call a referee's assessor. So you have a match commissioner here and a referees assessor. Match commissioner will now pay attention to look at the administrative preparation of the game. Okay, when you go to the field, is the ambulance there? Okay, how is the field of play? Is it marked? Okay, is everything okay? That is administrative. But when you talk about the referees assessor, you are looking specifically on the performance of the referee and even grade them. Okay, so that
both
it comes
the assessor
easy.
and the referees, match commission, the match commissioner and the assessor, do both of them provide a match report after the game?
Exactly, they both provide the match report. So a match report for the referees assessor will specifically give detail on how the referee has performed. And those are the reports that we follow when we want to upgrade a referee.
So this only applies at the MTN Super League level?
It's at the MTN Super League.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, and clearly it's because of the payments, because the lower leagues cannot afford. Okay, because even the Zambian Premier League team, some of them would complain to say, but why are you giving these two? They are doing the same job. But essentially they are not doing the same job. You know, when people are removing money from the pocket, they always complain. So I think those are some of the achievements that we scored. Challenges.
Yeah.
There is no institution that you can work without challenges. I had my own challenges. I thought I could have done better in terms of, giving referees training. Okay, I think referees were not trained enough. Okay, and maybe that's what we were getting in terms of the output, in terms of their performance. You find that teams are crying here, maybe these referees are not doing well because we did not do better in terms of training them. And this is a challenge to answer Chip's questions. This is a challenge that will go to one Stanley Hachiwa who is occupying the office, that can you push and push harder so that these referees are trained. When they are trained and they go and make mistakes, then they are going to be accountable. But you don't go and start suspending people who you have not trained. No, I think it's not right. It's not right. And it brings me to this issue of just waking up and suspending, referees. How many are you going to suspend? Because they're going to make mistakes. But have you trained this referee?
In 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. Have you trained this referee first of all? So I think we need to do a lot in terms of, investing into referees so that we can have these referees be happy and create a very conducive environment for them in terms of them, giving out the best output that they can give. So security at grounds is non-negotiable. Referees should be secured. They shouldn't be officiating a game thinking, oh, this is, I didn't want to cite this, but I'll mention, this is in Ghana Stadium. I might not live alive here. No, they shouldn't have that pressure. They should have been officiating with a free mind and implementing the laws of the game.
If you didn't go there, I would have gone there. Thank you so much, Aziph, for coming through. It's been a pleasure. Indeed, the state of referees, at least refereeing in Zambia, had to be addressed. And who better than, of course, the former, FAZ Referees Manager.
What
and of course,
is your takeaway point from that conversation?
My takeaway point? Nkani Yankana. We're going to brief break. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Yeah, guys.
What a marathon. You just have to catch your breath because it was such an interesting conversation that we did even have with Aziph Banda, former FIFA managers referee. And of course, we are so excited that he managed to come on set with us to be able to dissect issues to do with refereeing standards, if at all they've dropped or perhaps they've been maintained, or maybe they might even be better. We'll leave that to you as well. Open-ended question, if you will. From Chips, myself, John Mark Lukonde, Aziph, and Teresa as well. Thank you so much for watching. This has been VAR Zambia.